Creating a literary festival is always special. It's always different, with each being a journey of creation, a response to our world. This year has been like none other, highlighting what it means to be human, and the joys and comfort found in shared experiences. As readers, we turn to books to find solace, strength, inspiration and understanding. The authors we explore are documenting the stories of our times and helping us gain a better understanding of where the world might go next. The power of reading and the need for connection and community has inspired the 41st edition of the Toronto International Festival of Authors. And I welcome you warmly to share in this festival and our celebration of stories. Buy a book, discover new ideas, and share them with friends. Dive into this year's festival and enjoy hundreds of virtual events. Consider donating to the festival, if you can, to help support our free programme and to help us continue to support writers. Ask big questions and bring people together as we attempt to bring our new world into focus. As we come together to celebrate books and stories for the Toronto International Festival of Authors, bringing writers and readers together here at the Harbourfront Centre or online, digitally, we all come from different places and spaces. And we respectfully acknowledge that words and ideas have been shared on this land for thousands of years. The land on which we operate has been occupied by the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee and the Wendat peoples, and is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. It's part of the Dish with One Spoon territory and is still home to many Indigenous peoples. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. We thank those who've cared for the land and for sharing it with us. We are grateful to be here, connecting with others in the celebration of stories.
Hello, my name is Francesca Ekwuyasi. I'm a writer and multidisciplinary artist from Lagos, Nigeria. And today I'll be reading my short story titled Peculiarities. On June 11th, 1963, at a busy Saigon road intersection, after being doused in gasoline, Vietnamese Mahayana Buddhist monk Thich Con Duc placed a lit match in his lap and became, in less than an instant, engulfed in flames. He did this in protest against the persecution of Buddhists by the South Vietnamese government, which was led by Ngo Dinh Diem. 55 years later, weeks after reading about him, you, Nafai, wake up drenched in sweat. Your heart pounds rapidly as if attempting to force its way out of your chest. You've been dreaming of him almost every night since first seeing the pictures. Coincidentally, or perhaps in a sadistic cosmic conspiracy, you saw the pictures and read about his act of immolation on the same day you heard the news of the revolution in Mafarki, the tiny country bordered between Ethiopia, Eritrea, Sudan, and South Sudan. You had been smoking a joint by the kitchen window, waiting on some water to boil for tea, when Q, one of your roommates, walked in with the news blaring from their phone. Mafarki, the small troubled nation which has been under monarchic dictatorship for the last 6 decades, sees what witnesses on the ground are calling a bloody revolution and mass exodus as many of its citizens seek asylum in neighboring countries. Shocked, as though rudely awoken with a splash of cold water to the face, you dropped your joint on the windowsill and stuttered. You hadn't heard the country's name for as long as you'd been very carefully avoiding it, which was a long time, particularly since you'd found your way to Nova Scotia, Canada. You turned to Q, who had a joint dangling from their lips, crossed of sleep in the corner of their eyes, and thick locks bound high in a dense bun on their head. "Hey, Naf," they'd said, seeing the look on your face. "Oh yeah, wild, isn't it?" They placed the phone down and stretched, adding, "I didn't even know that country existed. The dictator dude sounds pretty fucked, like last King of Scotland level fucked." "He's worse," you'd wanted to say. "He's so much worse." But you didn't. Instead, you gave a sideways half smile, nodded at Q, and retrieved your joint. Later that day, you devoured everything you could find on the ongoing revolution and its displaced citizens. You read everything, watched grainy cell phone videos, failed to register any feeling in your mind or body, but your hands were shaking, so you knew that you were real. Then, and you wouldn't be able to trace precisely how, you found a story on Thich, saw photos of the burning monk, and cried uncontrollably for the remaining hours of the day. This is a refugee crisis. There have been rampant human rights violations for decades in that country, decades. The UN has continually failed to make any meaningful interventions, and now Africanians are sick of it. Many have lost their lives breaking through the surrounding borders to neighboring countries, some of which are hostile to refugees. The global community must step in, and you can't seem to escape the news. Though you are barely on it and share no content of your own, your social media feeds are inundated with news of Mafrikinian refugees resettled all over the African continent and abroad. You can't seem to escape it, even here at the post office, checking your mailbox because you don't want to be traceable. You hear the news coming from a TV mounted on the wall. You don't want to look, but you hear the melody of your mother tongue before a translator's voice shadows it with English. The journalist is at a refugee camp in Asosa, Ethiopia, interviewing Mafrikinians who have fled the country at the cost of the safety of their family members who remained. You look up just in time to see the dictator's face fill the screen as the journalist names some of his regime's crimes. You know this face well. On your more difficult days, you avoid mirrors for fear of seeing its echoes. You touch the back of your neck instinctively, feel the welt of an old scar. In your P.O. box, a check. You receive them monthly, for amounts you find so obscene they fill you with shame. You live lean. You work at the market. You own a large house with many rooms which you rent, though you never collect. You give large portions of money away. You give to the local refugee support center, to the shelters, to the hospital, any organization or individual that needs or asks, always anonymously. You're filled with shame. You stink of it. The checks are from your half-sister, Leah, your only family member with any idea of where you are, where you've been for the better part of the last decade. You put the check in your satchel and head out on your bicycle. It's a nearly two and a half hour bike ride home, but this is precisely why you've chosen that post office. By the time you get downtown, you are drenched in sweat. The air is heavy with humidity. You stop at a red light when you spot a brightly colored poster with the words peculiarities, race, queerness, art, resistance, critical pedagogy, jumping out in neon pink, green, and orange letters against a navy blue background. You've been seeing them around town for the last few weeks. Curious, you lean forward to read the description, but the light turns green. You must pedal on uphill to the West End, where you live with 5 other people, 2 cats, one 3-legged sphinx, the other a midnight black cat with short fur, an elderly mutt named Socrates, and 2 chickens. It's an old house, and you've made it your sole purpose to fix it up and make it beautiful. You've made it beautiful. When ending things with you, Magdalena, your most recent lover, seems sadder about losing connection to the house than anything else. You don't doubt her tenderness for you. In fact, you take it as a point of pride that she kept mentioning how much she'd missed your place. It happened over a year ago. You were seated beside each other on a wooden bench by the boardwalk, grateful for the ocean breeze offering respite from the blazing heat of mid-July in Halifax. Busy with slow-walking tourists, lazily snacking on beaver tails and ice creams, the waterfront still felt like sanctuary to you. I've been having such a lovely few months getting to know you and spending time together in that special house of yours, Magdalena had said. Her lips shone with the same red raspberry-flavored gloss you kissed off her mouth many times in the last 4 months. Pushing her round-framed sunglasses up the prominent slope of her nose, she continued. And Malachi is okay with me sharing this. It's just that, well, I'm quite smitten with you, you know. We opened our marriage for casual, non-threatening fun, but this, she waved her hand back and forth in the space between you two. It's not quite so non-threatening for Malachi. or for me for that matter. I'm committed to my marriage, so I have to end this. I hope you understand. She took off her glasses to wipe the tears that had begun to stream down her round cheeks. You simply took her hands in your own, and with a similar smile, you said, I understand. You haven't been touched since, haven't touched anyone. Not a hug, not an accidental brush of the arm, elbow, foot, nothing. It's not the longest you've gone without sex, not the longest you've gone without affection. But these days, you're acutely aware of your skin and the absence of another person's warmth on it, and you're still dreaming of the burning monk. On the front porch at home, you're greeted by Q with a docile chicken tucked under their arm as they introduce you to a friend of theirs. Hi, Nav. This is Asmara. She's here from the States. You moved to Oakland, right? Asmara nods and smiles and reaches to take your hand. Yeah, I did. Nice to meet you. You're Nav? Yes, Nafai. Nice to meet you. You take her hand and a small sigh escapes you. Embarrassment climbs up your cheeks, so you chuckle and add, welcome to Halifax. What brings you here? Work. Nafai is a gorgeous name. Where are you from? East Africa. You step back at the question and nod politely. Yeah, Q chimes in. Asmara organizes the Peculiarities Convention. Lucky to be having it in Halifax this year. Oh, I was just wondering about that. I've seen the posters around. Bashfully, she tells you about the Peculiarities Convention. You are so focused on every word coming out of her mouth, so focused on her mouth, on her slight lisp, on her tongue. You don't even notice that Q has left and returned, chicken-free and with 3 bottles of beer. The 3 of you drink and talk into the night. Excitement thrums through you when Q goes inside, leaving you and Asmara alone again. When she looks at her phone and notes that it's incredibly late, you offer to walk her to her hotel. You have no expectations, none at all, but you accept when she invites you in with her. She is ample-bodied, with vitiligo making milky maps on her otherwise dark skin. You want to bury your face in the crook of her neck. You want to know her smile. It doesn't take very much for you to clock that she's effortlessly, casually brilliant. You could listen to her talk forever. How is it so easy to laugh with her? Her laughter makes you laugh. But now she's asking you questions, asking where you're from, who your people are. In an instant, you decide that you will tell her. But first you ask, Asmara, may I touch you? You don't dream of the burning monk. You don't dream at all. You wake up with Asmara in your arms. When she wakes up, she kisses you, turns on the news and orders room service breakfast. You watch her while you eat. You want to brush the scone crumbs from her chin when the newscaster's voice sways your attention. The Prime Minister has announced an initiative to resettle Mafrikinian refugees in Canada in the next year. This is an unprecedented. Isn't it devastating what's happening in that country? That dictator is cruel. A cruel fucking beast. He's my father, you say, and you could float to the ceiling for how feather-light this disclosure leaves you. What? Asmara's all wide eyes and disbelief, so you tell her everything. You tell her the secret you've been harboring for 9 years. You tell her quickly because you have been aching to release this. It all pours out of you. My father has been ruling Mafarki for almost 3 decades. It's where I'm from, where I grew up. I didn't understand until I was a teenager in boarding school in Switzerland. My mother was one of his wives, one of the younger ones. She tried to take me out of school for us to run away somewhere in Europe, but he found out and he disappeared her. I didn't know exactly what happened to her until I was about 20. I went home from university and somehow found some pictures of, he liked to keep evidence of his, to use as a warning to others who might consider crossing him. You are shaking now, shivering, but the room isn't cold at all. Anyway, you continue, I knew better than to say anything. I went back to university, then fell off the face of the earth. Only one person has an idea of where I'm at. As Mara's jaw is on the floor, a long moment crawls by before she asks, "Are you fucking with me?" You need her to know that you aren't fucking with her, so you show her the family crest on the back of your neck. You, all your siblings, and all your mothers are branded this way. You were 10 when your father ordered your mother to press the glowing hot branding iron to your sweating skin. Asmara touches the scar gingerly, saying, oh my God," under her breath. That was a lot of information to divulge after a first night together, you say, chuckling, attempting to mask your shame and humor, sharply aware of the risk you've just taken. It was, Asmara replies with a sigh. But fuck, I hope you're in therapy or you're writing or something. Then she laughs nervously, and you laugh. Years later, you start writing. It's entirely private at first, then slowly you share your work more publicly under a pseudonym because your father is still alive and still powerful. You scribble down a poem that has been brewing inside you, words and feelings that collect in your mind whenever you speak to Asmara on the phone and hear the laughter in her voice. You've stayed friends, and you haven't stopped remembering the nights you spent together. You tuck the poem in an envelope beside a Polaroid picture that Q took of you in the garden, and you mail it to her. I'm hungry for the salt of your body, famished for the particular composition of minerals that live in your spit, under your tongue, and your skin. Bitten, softly, I am bitten by the tangle of hair that meets me here, the patch of hot flesh taut over your throat. I would quite like it if you swallowed me. Your laughter is honey. Pour it over me. Feast. Thank you so much for watching and for listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a good day.